synergy in the arm, and sometimes, the extensor synergy in the leg. These look a lot like diagonal PNF patterns, remarkably, some of them. Yeah. So she's got a little bit of that. So I'll be looking at that functionally. How might that impact her function? I'm sorry, I'm totally.
Getting in a car.
Getting in a car? Yeah, if you've got to bring your leg up and over, that might be something that's challenging, sure.
What about stairs and stuff? Going down a hill?
Stairs, going down a hill, stepping over a tub to get inside, right? All of those things. I mean, she's nodding.
So when she said it was hard to get her to walk uphill, would that be a part of what that problem is?
It may be.
Because her feet might turn in that way?
Yeah, it may be. So, if you're walking uphill, you need a fair amount of ankle dorsiflexion. And her spasticity pattern is to go in the other direction. So it may be a stiffness and range of motion issue. It may be strength in these calf muscles when they have to really push off from that lengthened position. And it also may be motor control. And being able to lift the leg and place it with confidence if it's inverted. Yeah. So we did a gross motor assessment lying down. So now you get to, I'll give you shoes back. Now she's got some fun little Katie's been at your feet, right? You got,
yeah, we're trying to get me to
there's
balance.
some custom orthotics in there. Yeah. So then she's putting on her shoes, right? Don't put your patient's shoes on for them. Let them put them on, and then we're watching. What do I get to see here? What are you watching for? Yeah. What's her strength? You're looking at the weight shift in her trunk, right? She's got to shift over. She's got to coordinate this movement and pull up. She's got to have good eye and hand control because she's got to manipulate clasps and things like that. I'm doing no formal testing. I'm just watching, right? So if she came in and all of a sudden she's not able to do a weight shift, or she's needing to put an arm out to hold herself up, that would be a change for her, and I would start looking a little closer. So when someone's sitting up, you're doing sitting balance. What do you look for? Yeah, so look at midline orientation. That's pretty big in neurological rehabilitation. If you don't have control of midline and awareness of midline for your head and trunk, it's really difficult to use these effectively, right? So trunk control and head control and awareness of midline are really, really important objectives and an integral part of a treatment plan. You can't walk effectively and efficiently without good head and trunk control. You can't reach for objects without good head and trunk control. You can't get out of bed with good head and trunk control. I did watch how she got up out of sitting. Did anybody see any sort of patterns they're concerned about with how she got up? Was she able to kind of go onto her side and roll and push herself up and do those types of things? Yeah. So if she needed more help with that, I would know, right? You'd have to help her. If she had a hemiplegic arm, I would avoid having her roll onto that arm to come up to sitting. There's a risk for added subluxation or impingement or added joint instability. So if someone has a really floppy arm, you would teach them to get that arm and hold it with them so that they're weight bearing on their scapula and not on their glenohumeral joint. And those are things that we'll go over in practice as we pretend to have hemiplegia. Right? So briefly, you take a look at, is she using her arms for support or not? No. So you'll see documented supported or unsupported. So supported sitting is somebody who has to hold on. Okay. If you see somebody doing this, they're looking for stability, right? So hold on. So supported or unsupported is something you'll see. This is static sitting balance. And then you'll see some documentation as to whether or not they can take challenges, minimal challenges. So you may give her a little nudge, right? Different directions, not tell her, right? And see how she responds. You're looking at head, trunk, and speed, right? And you're also looking to see if she puts an arm out, right? So she's got that reaction. It's pretty good, right? And dynamic sitting balance, any ideas on how you would check that? Oh yeah, you could do eyes closed. You can close your eyes. You do eyes closed, we're getting a sense of how her joint receptors in her body are giving her information about where she's in space. That's excellent. What else could you look at? Dynamic sitting. You can open your eyes. Yeah, can you do some marching, right? Right? So we're looking again at her trunk and head control, right? I might sit here and say, can you touch my hand with your right hand? Go ahead and get your feet flat on the floor.
Let me move out here.
Yeah, and then can you touch my hand with your right hand? about your left hand? Right, so can she cross midline? Does she have good transportation? I'm also getting a sense of her range of motion, right? Part of reaching, a large part of reaching is if you have trunk range of motion. So not only does she have the planning to be able to initiate the movement and execute it with accuracy, but does she have the range of motion of trunk to do that? And I would do it on both sides, up high, down low. It's also helpful if you have a meaningful object, but I did get some dynamic sitting balance assessment by just watching her put on her shoes. So in the interest of time, like Mark mentioned, I might just skip that because I would know that she has pretty good functional range or functional balance for sitting.
And folks get really stiff very fast in the acute care setting with SNFs. So the trunk stiffness happens really, really fast. So that's why it's so important to go through those ranges early on and check to see what they might need as far as exercises and help loosen up the trunk.
Good. So now she's upright against gravity. So I may do some of the same tests. Can you bring your arms up? Can you reach behind your head? Behind your back? Good. Put your hands back here. Can you lift your knee up? Other side. Can you kick? Can you kick the other side? What do you notice? Okay. Yeah, so she's limited in extension. Could be hamstrings, right? I didn't check that lying down. What else could it be?
Weakness in your.
Some weakness. It could also be synergies. Notice how much of the trunk kicks in. Go ahead and go ahead. You see the overflow? I mean, everything is getting pulled in to get the leg up. So I don't know why. Do you know that Karen lives close to where I used to take my daughter for daycare, and I would see her out walking for exercise.
Wasn't fair.
And then she would come in the clinic, I'm like, Karen. She's like, I toot at her. It's out there chugging along. It's good. Okay. And then we may just do toes up and heels up. Okay. All right. You see any other recruitment things going on? Okay. Yeah, we see a lot more of this. And see her hands trying to help? Now you're inhibiting it. All right, so now we're going to look at some motor control. So there's a fun word, it's one of my favorite therapy words, diatotokinesia, and it's your ability to perform rapid alternating movement. This is the humiliation portion of the show. Okay. All right, so we just match my tapping. A little faster. Good. Okay, hands flat, palms up and down. Now match me. Pretty good. Upper body, right? You can do the same thing with your feet. Ready? They don't work. Right? Let's go a little faster. Okay. Is she going to have some motor control issues in her feet? Yeah. And I want to know that before we walk. Even though I watched her in, I want to know that before we walk because it's going to have me select a much different gait activity or pre-gait activity than just walking. Okay? That will be how my clinical decision making. When I write in my note, significant difficulty with rapid alternating movement in the distal lower extremities, you should be thinking, all right, this is somebody I might want to go to the parallel bars with first and work on slow, controlled movements. Remember slow before fast, right, in terms of the motor acquisition. So those are things that you would think about if you were to read that with her.
Even though you saw her walk in okay?
Right, because we want it to be functional. So she can walk in okay to observation, but how long did it take her to get here? How much energy did it take for her to walk that way? What sort of joint stresses do we risk with her continuing with that walking pattern? And then what are we missing in terms of functional strength where, if she were to fall down, could she get up? Does she have those types of the control to be able to rapidly maneuver around a little dog that might be running around her feet? So those are things that you're thinking about. So yes, I'm going to work on those things because there's different functional outcomes we might be looking
I
at.
just meant the parallel bars. Like, would you go to the parallel bars even though she walked in?
Right, that's a good question. And again, it would depend on what I'm focusing on. Like if I really wanted to have her work on isolated control and provide a safe place to do that, to work on some slow movements where she could have her arms for support, really focus on the leg piece, I might do that. I might not. But there's just some ideas that you would think about. One therapist would and one therapist wouldn't because they have a different skill set, but you would be working on the same activity.
And you can also, when you introduce the activity, you can kind of get a gauge if she looks anxious about that. When you're introducing the activity, what we're going to do, the rapid movements, then you would definitely go for more stability too. I mean, it just helps you with that
Right.
problem solving and planning.